All right, let's dive into a story that's more than just muscles and feats of strength. We're talking Samson, the biblical strongman, a guy whose life was full of passion, yeah, strength, and a few questionable decisions along the way.
You know, it's fascinating how Samson's story takes place during a really, really dark time for the Israelites. I mean, they're under Philistine rule, things are looking pretty bleak, and they're desperate, desperate for a hero. It's like the whole nation is just waiting, holding its breath, hoping for some kind of change.
Yeah, and then boom, enters Samson. This hero, seemingly sent straight from heaven, but his story doesn't start with a bang. It starts with a whisper, a promise.
Mhm.
An angel appears to a woman who was, well, she couldn't have children.
Exactly. And that's where we start to see some of the depth in Samson's story. It's not just about brute strength, it's about hope, this impossible birth, this promise of a child who will begin to deliver Israel from the hand of the Philistines. It's like a light, in the darkness.
So we have this hero sent from God, destined to free the Israelites. But there's a catch, right? This angel, he doesn't just appear and disappear. He gives some very specific instructions.
Oh, absolutely. This is where we get the Nazarite vow.
Samson has to be a Nazarite, and that means what exactly?
Well, he's bound by certain vows: no wine and no touching anything dead.
And the most famous one, of course.
Yeah, no haircuts.
Okay, so no haircuts. You think bad hair days are rough? Imagine never cutting your hair. But was it really just about the hair?
No, no, it's much deeper than that. This Nazarite vow wasn't just about the outward appearance, it was about an inner commitment, this separation unto God, a physical sign of a deeper dedication. It was like a constant, visible reminder of a higher purpose.
So like a modern day parallel, are we all supposed to take some crazy vow and never cut our hair again? What's the takeaway here?
Well, maybe not literally, but think about it. What are the things in our lives that demand that same level of commitment, that level of dedication?
Yeah, what requires that kind of focus?
Yeah. Maybe it's a dream that we're chasing, a cause we're fighting for, a relationship that we're really nurturing. The point is, true dedication, it requires sacrifice. And sometimes that means saying no to the things that might distract us, from our goals.
I like that. It's not about the hair itself, it's about what it represents. So we've got the angel, we've got the promise, and we've got the vow. But what about Samson's dad, Manoah? I mean, he's
Yeah.
got to be freaking out a little bit, right? An angel just appeared to his wife.
Oh, absolutely. His reaction is so human, so relatable. He's faced with this incredible situation, this divine mandate for his son, and he wants to make sure he gets it right. So he asks for clarification, for
And wants
guidance.
a little more instruction.
Exactly. And it reminds us that even when we're faced with something extraordinary, something amazing, it's okay to seek understanding, to ask for help.
To say, wait, what?
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
And to be fair, the angel does reappear, right? He confirms the instructions, kind of lays it all out for Manoah, and then he does something pretty incredible.
Oh, yeah, this is a big one.
He ascends in flames. Talk about a dramatic exit.
It's a powerful image. It really reinforces the idea that something truly extraordinary is about to happen. Just when things seem hopeless for the Israelites, boom, this tangible sign of divine intervention. It's like this cosmic pep talk saying, hey, don't give up. Things are going to change.
Big things are coming.
You better believe it.
So we've got this incredible promise hanging in the air, this baby, Samson, who is destined for greatness. But how is it all going to play out? I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Welcome back. So last time, we left off with a pretty dramatic scene. We had an angel ascending in flames, promise of deliverance for Israel, and of course this baby boy, Samson, destined for greatness.
Right. Samson, the long-haired hero, waiting in the wings. But even with a divine mandate, he's still a man. He's got human desires, human weaknesses. And that's where his story, it takes some interesting turns. Absolutely. Samson's journey it's not a straight line. He's incredibly strong, obviously, but he's driven by passion. And sometimes that passion, it kind of leads him into some sticky situations.
Like when he falls for a Philistine woman. Talk about a complicated relationship. He's supposed to deliver Israel from the Philistines, not join their families.
Yeah, it's more than complicated. It's a direct challenge to everything Samson's supposed to represent. But Samson, despite his parents' warnings, he's completely smitten with this woman.
So what does he do? Does he follow his heart, risk it all for love?
He does. And in true Samson fashion, he encounters a lion on his way to visit this woman. And what does he do? He tears it apart with his bare hands.
Okay, that's a pretty clear sign of superhuman strength. But it's also a little unsettling, isn't it? Is it just raw power, or is there something else going on?
I think that's the question that keeps coming up with Samson. Is his strength just physical? Or is there something more to it? How much is guided by divine purpose and how much is driven by his own impulses? It's hard to say.
And then there's that whole weird incident with the honey.
Oh, yeah, that's a strange one.
He kills the lion, comes back later, finds a beehive in the carcass, and he eats the honey. And then he shares it with his parents, who I'm guessing were not too thrilled.
It's definitely one of the more bizarre moments in the story, but some scholars, they see it as symbolic.
Symbolic of what?
Well, they say it represents that kind of duality of Samson's nature, the sweetness, the honey, juxtaposed with this violence of the lion. It's like foreshadowing that constant tension between his strength and his weakness, divine purpose, human flaws.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. So what about this Philistine woman? Does he actually marry her?
He does, but it's not exactly a smooth sailing romance. At the wedding feast, Samson, being Samson, decides to propose a riddle to his Philistine guests.
Wait, a riddle? What do you mean?
A pretty tricky one, it seems. He wagers 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes that they can't solve it.
So what happens? Do they solve it?
Well, the Philistines, they can't crack the riddle, so they threaten his new wife and her family to get the answer.
Oh, no. So she betrays him.
She does. She begs Samson to tell her the answer, and, well, he's blinded by love. He gives in, and when the Philistines, they solve the riddle, Samson, he's furious. He feels betrayed, humiliated.
I bet. So what does he do? Just walk away?
Let's just say Samson doesn't handle rejection well. He goes on a rampage, killing 30 Philistines to get the garments for his wager. It's a dark turn in the story, and it really sets the stage for this cycle of violence that's going to come to define his relationship with the Philistines.
When we left off, Samson was, well, he was heading down a pretty dark path, a path of revenge, lashing out at the Philistines after being betrayed by his wife.
And that act of vengeance, it really sets off this chain reaction, this cycle of violence, and it just seems to escalate with each encounter. Samson becomes this one-man army, striking fear into the hearts of the Philistines.
And this is where we get all those legendary feats of strength.
Right.
I mean, the jawbone of a donkey, 1,000 Philistines. It all sounds a little over the top, even for a Bible story.
Well, yeah, there's definitely some hyperbole going on there. It's meant to emphasize just how powerful Samson is, but we have to remember the context, right? Samson, he's not just showing off. He's fighting for survival. He's caught in this cycle of violence, fueled by anger and a thirst for revenge.
But even with all that strength, Samson is still vulnerable. He's still human. And that vulnerability, it leads him right into the arms of another Philistine woman, Delilah.
Oh, Delilah. She's a fascinating character, a woman shrouded in mystery, in intrigue. She's alluring, she's manipulative, driven by greed, and maybe even some kind of twisted affection for Samson.
And the Philistine leaders, they see an opportunity. They're desperate to stop Samson, and they see Delilah as their weapon. They bribe her to uncover the secret of his strength.
And that's where the real tragedy of Samson's story unfolds. This man who can conquer armies, but he can't conquer his own heart. He falls for Delilah's charms. And despite knowing the danger, he reveals his secret, his strength. It lies in his uncut hair, that symbol of his Nazarite vow.
And that's the beginning of the end.
It is. Delilah, she betrays Samson. She cuts off his hair while he's sleeping. And the Philistines, they capture him, blind him, imprison him. They take this former tormentor and they turn him into a spectacle, a source of amusement, of mockery.
It's a brutal fall from grace. From a divinely empowered hero to a blind, broken prisoner. What's the message here? What are we supposed to learn from Samson's downfall?
I think it speaks to the danger of unchecked passions, the way our desires, if we don't guard them carefully, they can blind us to the consequences of our actions. Samson, with all his strength, was undone by his own weaknesses.
But even in his darkest hour, Samson's story isn't over. He's got one final act of defiance, one last display of power.
You're right. Imprisoned, blinded, Samson is brought before a crowd of Philistines. They're gathered in the temple of their god, Dagon. And in that moment, Samson calls out to the Lord. He summons his remaining strength, and he brings the entire temple crashing down, killing himself and thousands of Philistines.
So how do we interpret that final act? Is it vengeance? Is it sacrifice? Is it both?
It's open to interpretation. And I think that's part of what makes Samson's story so enduring. It challenges us to think about these complex questions, about human nature, about the nature of power, about the consequences of our choices.
We started this deep dive by saying that Samson's story, it's more than just a Sunday school lesson. And I think that's true. It's a story that continues to resonate with us today. It reminds us that even the strongest among us are vulnerable, and that the choices we make, even in the heat of passion, they have lasting consequences.
And maybe it also reminds us that even in those moments of weakness, even when we've made mistakes, there's still a chance for redemption, a chance to make a difference. Samson's final act, however you interpret it, it brought an end to Philistine oppression. It fulfilled the destiny that was placed on him from birth.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the tumultuous life of Samson, we're left with a lot to think about. Strength and weakness, passion and betrayal, victory and defeat. What resonates with you? What lessons can we take from Samson's story? And how can we apply those to our own lives? That's something to think about as we go about our day. Until next time.